Hi, I'm Steve Brazel, and we've got a great set of Riverside Monthly episodes for you this month. First of all, I want to welcome my guest, as always, the mayor for the city of Riverside, Mayor Patricia Lock-Dawson. How are you?
I'm doing well, Steve. Happy New Year.
Yes, it is a new year, and we've got so much to look forward to, including the episodes. We're going to be talking to somebody that you are now working with there at City Hall, Riverside's new Homeless Solutions Officer, Dr. Larissa Villarreal, this month. It's a great conversation I think everybody will benefit from.
Yeah, and following that, we have an interview with Forbes 30 under 30 list recipient who is a Riverside native. Her name is Charlotte Smith, and she is let me get the title right, Global Communications and Public Affairs Manager for Google.
Yeah, and when I saw that we were going to be doing that episode, I was so excited. She's a Poly graduate like I am. Excited to do that conversation as well. Madam Mayor, if people want to reach out to you, where can they go?
Oh, they can find me on social media, on Twitter and Instagram at Mayor Lock Dawson, and on Facebook at City of Riverside, Mayor Patricia Lock Dawson.
Madam Mayor, I look forward to seeing you on each and every episode. Thanks so much for joining us. And to everybody else, make sure you watch each episode. You can check them out on the Riverside website, riversideca.gov, or at the city's YouTube channel. We're going to be getting to know Riverside's new Homeless Solutions Officer. So I'd like to welcome to the show Dr. Larissa Villarreal. How are you, Larissa?
Hi, good morning. I'm well, Steve, and thank you for having me today. And good morning, Madam Mayor.
It's our pleasure to have you. And Madam Mayor, why don't you get us going?
I would love to. This is really exciting to have Larissa come to the city of Riverside, but I'm just curious, Larissa. We love it here, but what attracted you to Riverside?
Sure. So, as you may know, I'm a Riversider myself. And so it just felt like a natural transition for me to look for an opportunity close to home, but not just any opportunity. I was determined to continue to do work in the 13 grand challenges of social work. I've been working in smart decarceration for the last several years. And what is braided into smart decarceration is also eradicating homelessness. And so when I saw this opportunity arise, I jumped on it.
You know, I want to say welcome to Riverside, except you're a Riversider to begin with. So welcome home, I guess, is a better way to word it. But it's interesting because as you described your background, obviously, government services is different than, standard business service versus nonprofit. So I'm kind of curious, how does your past experience in the nonprofit world help you with your new role?
Sure, great question. So I've been in the nonprofit world for over 20 years now in a volunteer and professional capacity. So I think that my experiences in putting people first and my desire to make the community a better place and rallying community members to, continue to do work to create spaces that they're proud of has really got me ready for this role in particular. And of course, I learned some things along the way, right? So I write, implement, manage, and evaluate grants. I understand that staying in compliance with grants is extremely important, and also using data to tell a story, especially when you are out there fundraising. So I think that that's helped me, and also cultivating partnerships and working closely with stakeholders. All of these things just kind of create the big picture in the nonprofit world, and also in transitioning over into this space. So I think that I'm ready, and I've been getting acclimated in this position, and I to acknowledge that I still have so much to learn from my colleagues, the community, the target population that I'm going to serve, and I look forward to growing into this position.
So that's a good question because you are looking at a different target population here. So how do you think are there similarities between your previous work helping formerly incarcerated individuals re-enter society and the the current job who are helping folks who are just on the margins not fall through the cracks?
You know, um, Reentry and eradicating homelessness are actually much more closely related than most people think. I'll quote a statistic that I found. According to the Prison Policy Initiative, approximately 570 people out of 10,000 involved and previously justice involved individuals find themselves facing homelessness upon release. So, and I mentioned earlier, smart decarceration and eradicating homelessness are 13 grand challenges of social work. So, they're interwoven along with other social issues. And so this disproportionately impacts Black women more so than any other race or gender. And I know that is similar to homelessness as well. And so both populations, those experiencing homelessness and those who are justice involved and previously justice involved, they face very strong stigmatizations by the community. And these stigmas prevent them from obtaining housing, gainful employment, healthcare, and it just creates this vicious cycle of larger barriers.
I love it when somebody new comes to the city because it gives you a really different perspective. And I guess the follow-up question to that I would have is, now that you've been here a grand total of like 2 months or something, I think. I can't remember when you first came on. A month. It's just a month, I think, right?
Yes.
When you're looking at what we're doing in the city, I mean, are there any specific areas that you've noticed where we're doing really well versus specific areas that there's really room for growth?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And yes, I've been here 1 month. So my work anniversary or 1 month anniversary was on Monday of this week. um, I think that the city of Riverside is making strides in the partnerships that they've created. I know that the city understands that there are nonprofits and private organizations that are experts in their field. And so the city really leans into these experts to provide services for our most vulnerable. And so I think they're doing an amazing job there. I also think that there's opportunities to collect data points that will help us to tell a more robust story of the population that we're serving and how to better assess and meet their needs. So, there's always room for growth, right? If there was a magic wand, I would wave it and create more dwellings for those individuals who are ready for housing or are on wait lists and haven't had the opportunity to get placed yet. So, but overall, I think the city is doing a wonderful job.
That brings up something very interesting to me, and that is you're coming from that nonprofit background, and bringing that knowledge with you is going to position Riverside in such a great place to make those partnerships with other nonprofits because you so well understand that side of the equation. I think that's going to make you such an amazing team member here in Riverside. And again, happy 1 month anniversary. So if people want to know more, where can people go?
Sure. Yeah. So if people want to learn more about the Office of Homeless Solutions, they can visit our website at www.riversideca.gov/homeless solutions.
Perfect. And so that you used a /, which I love because that's correct. Madam Mayor, anything else you wanted to add?
I just want to welcome Larissa, and we're thrilled to have you here and know that our office is open for you to come and talk to us anytime. So thanks.
Thank you so much.
Hi, once again. Welcome to Riverside Monthly. I'm Steve Brazel, joined as always by the mayor for the city of Riverside, Mayor Patricia Locke Dawson. The Forbes 30 Under 30 list, it's a well-known list, comes out all the time. It includes a Riverside native. And so I want to welcome to the show Charlotte Smith, the Global Communication and Public Affairs Manager for Google. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Steve. And thank you, Mary Locke Dawson, for having me. So excited to be here.
I'm so excited.
Mayor,
to
you
have
want to get us going?
Yeah, I do. Well, I'm jumping ahead of you, Steve, because I'm so excited to talk to Charlotte because she's representing Riverside. How wonderful is that? And I just you make us all look good. So I'm wondering, what was your reaction when you heard about the honor?
Well, I was honestly very surprised. They don't tell you anything in advance. So I submitted a headshot months before, and I woke up just looking at my phone. I was scrolling through the list to see who made this year's list, and I was shocked to see my name. It was a total surprise, but I was really excited. I told my parents, they're very proud, and it's just a really humbling experience to be counted among so many talented people.
You just said so. I have a different question I want to ask, but I have to follow up on that. They put you on the list and you got no email, no nothing?
No, nothing. Nothing. It's a total surprise. No one gets notified in advance.
Wow, that's
I
sort of
kind of like that.
Yeah, it's like looking at an audition list or something, right? Like when you audition for something and you're just watching for your name on there. Interesting.
That's
Yeah.
totally wild. So I have to dive into your background a little bit because Riverside native, same here. I graduated Poly High School way before you, but you graduated Poly High School just actually, I think, a year before my son did. And then you went on to Harvard and now Google. Could you help us kind of understand that path that you took?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, grew up in Riverside. I am an Alcott Gage Poly track girl. And so I remember being in high school actually, and I was part of the Poly Spotlight. I was a reporter and then I was an editor, and I really loved newspaper. And so when I got into Harvard, I was really excited. I wanted to study to become a lawyer. I ended up becoming an editor of Harvard's newspaper. So, Poly Spotlight never leaves you. And eventually, my junior year, as I was studying to be a lawyer, I wrote my first legal paper ever, and it was deeply boring. And so from then on, I decided I wanted to be involved with media. And I ended up getting a job kind of marrying my love of two things, government and law and communications and writing and newspapers. And that was doing PR. So I worked for an agency in DC for 2 years doing crisis PR. For the Ebola crisis. I worked for a number of food companies that had some emergencies with their food. And then Google hired me in 2016 to work on their public affairs work and government positioning. And I've loved it ever since. And it builds up to some of the work that you see quoted in my Forbes profile around election security and election integrity. And really working with Google, one of the world's largest companies, to make sure that people have the tools and resources they need to vote, and working with a lot of reporters to break a lot of that news and make sure that people who read the Press Enterprise or who read the Washington Post know about that news too.
Wow. So Poly Spotlight, that's pretty good. I am curious though.
What's funny is when she said that, it brought back so many memories of being at school.
My kids went to Poly too, Charlotte. So, but they were a little younger than you, so they graduated after you. But so that's really interesting. I'm curious, were you attracted to Google? I mean, a lot of people have this, goal of working for Google, but what drew you to Google?
It's a great question because some people consider themselves to be, engineers or people who work in tech. I think of myself as a media person who happens to work in the tech industry. And so honestly, I was talking to a friend, and I'm sure this is how it happens in Riverside and a lot of other cities, but in DC, it's very common. I was talking to a friend. I was looking for another opportunity, moving on from my agency. And he said, let me call up a friend of mine. And I just talked to this friend for about an hour. And that friend said, hey, I work for Google and I'm hiring someone to do this job. You should apply. I'd really like you to. And I was like, okay, I guess. My parents live in California, so it'd be easy to visit. And I interviewed and got the job. And it's because somebody said, hey, you should work for these folks, and I'm going to set you up to do that. Google is a dream company, like you said, and I think I was surprised that I could do what I loved, which is not coding. I can't code a single line, but I could do what I loved as far as media goes and government relations goes for a company, and not have to leave my home. I've lived in DC now for almost 8 years. So it's kind of great that my office is still down the street, but I can still visit our LA office, or there's an office in Irvine. So when I visit my parents, I can still work for my company.
It's interesting because I come from an IT background, but I've been in broadcasting for 4 decades, radio and this type of stuff as well. And so it's interesting to me to see the way that you've combined with the tech company, the PR type stuff that you do and the communication type stuff that you do, which leads to something that's in the Forbes article where they credit you with creating the company's policies banning demonstrable false information in ads, whether it be in the form of hate speech, political information, or voter suppression during last year's election, which, first of all, thank you. But number two, that is a task most people would see on their checklist and go, I'm gonna leave that one over there. But no, you undertook that path. What led you to that?
It's a great question, Steve. I would say passion. I've wanted to work on elections for a long time, and I was finally in the right job and the right level of seniority to do it. And when you're passionate about something, you don't look at your to-do list and say, this can wait till tomorrow, or like, this is really someone else's job, so I'm going to let them do it. When we saw that there was this gap in some of our policies, I raised my hand immediately. I was like, I could write this. I could write it today. Look, I did it. I didn't expect anyone to take it seriously, but then it became like a codified Google policy. And I think part of your job, whether you work for a corporation or work in public service, when you work in a job where you have some level of responsibility and you're passionate about it, you have to do the right thing. You have to be passionate about doing the right thing and push other people to do that too. So I am really proud of that particular policy. It took a lot of work and a lot of research, but when it comes down to something like elections and civil service, like, it's a responsibility I take very, very seriously. It's so important. Local elections, very important. My dad used to work for the city of Riverside. So, I know that when it comes to empowering and protecting people at all levels, like, this is something that matters in the real world.
Wow. You also co-founded a group for Black PR managers at Google, and Forbes really credits that with sort of changing how Google interacts with communities of color, right? I think that's when I was reading about it. So, I mean, how important is it for a company or even a local government really to embrace and celebrate diversity like that?
It is so, so important. And it's not just important from an inclusion perspective, but it's important as a business need. Like, there's a real business gap that's not addressed when you don't have inclusive seats at your table. And I'll tell you the story. I'll give you an example. It was 2020, and it was June of 2020. As you know, protests all around in every city related to George Floyd's murder. And so Google put out a blog about supporting the Black community. The problem is none of the Black communicators actually saw the blog. And we were saying, we would actually say this a little bit differently. And you've communicated to all of our employees in the world without consulting the folks you've hired to do that, who actually belong to that community and are a part of it. So we rewrote the blog and we sent it to the CEO and the head of global comms. And I called my mom and I said, I'm either going to get promoted or fired. We're going to see which one. And thankfully, I was not fired, but they loved it so much. They were like, yes, and you guys should have a hand in all of our communications when it comes to how we're talking about the Black community to folks outside of our company, how we're talking to the Black community within Google writ large. And as communicators, we're trusted to do that. And let's talk about some of the challenges you guys face as Black communicators, because we now see one instance in which you guys didn't have a seat at the table. Let's make sure that doesn't happen again. And I'm really, really proud of our group. Like I said, we now have a system to review those types of comms. And as I mentioned, it helps from a business perspective, but it also helps from a growth perspective. We talk to each other and give each other opportunities to grow in our own careers. We have helped our leadership get a little bit more proximate to the community, outside of business, just understanding our stories and our backgrounds. And so I think in addition to growing ourselves as professionals, we've helped the other people in our team grow a little bit too.
I find it so amazing and wonderful at the same time that Google was willing to, when you sent to the CEO and to the comms manager, was willing to consider that and embrace it and understand that we have to talk to people that are involved in whatever that topic is to truly understand it, but more importantly, to communicate it and bring that message to other people. We can't just do it unilaterally, which makes me think I want you back here in Riverside. Are you in DC now? Is that where you live?
Yes, I live in DC. I'm about 10 blocks from the White House, which is why you might hear some sirens.
Where it's in the 40s as the high and it's in the low teens at night. So any chance you'd be coming back to Riverside?
Maybe. It's very cold here. So I just have to say, it's very cold. And, recently I was talking to my parents. I always consider it. I think I'm a bit of a city girl, but my brother still lives in Riverside, and some of his friends are part of the PIC group for young professionals. And I just thought that was so cool that we have a group for young professional people who are trying to change Riverside and modernize it and creating all of these business opportunities. I saw how much downtown has changed, and I always go to Game Lab with my brother and have a drink and play some arcade games. But I just think it's very cool. It's looking a little bit more like DC. So it's giving me something to consider.
We're missing the big White House, though.
Yeah. We don't have quite as many sirens either. Not as many motorcades going down the street. So, well, Charlotte, I really appreciate you being here today and just spending some time with us, taking some time out of your schedule. But if people want to get some information about your the Forbes listing, where can they go?
Yeah, Forbes, and thank you so much for having me too. I have a profile on Forbes. I'm also included on the list. They were very generous. So if you go to this year's Forbes list, it's at Forbes.com/30under30, you'll find the media category, and my profile is a part of that. If you pick up this month's issue of Forbes, I'm also in it, which is very exciting. And it has that same profile. And then finally, you can click through, and I have a Forbes profile with a very long URL, and I won't bore you with it. But you can see that headshot, a fuller description of my job, and it shows where I grew up, which is Riverside, California.
So awesome. And again, let me just give out the URL again. It's Forbes.com/30-under-30/2022. Global Communication and Public Affairs Manager for Google, Charlotte Smith. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank y'all, and have a safe and happy New Year.
And Madam Mayor, as always, good to see you. Happy New Year to you, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. And we can't wait to see all the wonderful things you do, Charlotte.
Yeah, you've got such a bright future ahead of you. Again, everybody, this is Riverside Monthly. We do multiple episodes each and every month. Make sure you check out each and every one. I'm Steve Brazill, and we'll see you on the next show.